Every narcissist has a moment where their mask slips and the empath finally sees the truth. If you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, you know that moment, that split second when the charming facade cracks, when the carefully constructed image shatters, when you suddenly see behind the curtain and realize the person you thought you knew never actually existed. But here's what most people don't understand. That mask isn't just manipulation. It's survival, it's protection, and understanding why it exists and what makes it fall changes everything. If you're ready to understand the psychology behind the mask, to decode narcissistic behavior through the lens of Jungian shadow work, then subscribe to this channel right now. Because we're going deep today. We're pulling back the curtain on one of the most misunderstood dynamics in modern psychology. I'm going to show you exactly what that mask is protecting, what causes it to crumble, and what you as an empath actually see when it finally falls. And I promise you, it's not what you think. Let's dive in. The architecture of the mask. So let's start with the fundamental question. Why does the mask exist in the first place? Carl Jung taught us that every human being has a shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, repressed, or refused to acknowledge. For most people, shadow work means gradually integrating these rejected parts. It means becoming whole by accepting our darkness alongside our light. But for the narcissist, something different happens. The shadow doesn't get integrated, it gets buried. And on top of that grave, they build a monument, a false self so grandiose, so perfect, so untouchable that no one will ever suspect what's rotting underneath. This is the mask, and it's not optional for them, it's survival. Because here's the truth that most people miss. Underneath that mask isn't a monster. It's not some calculating villain who chose to be this way. Underneath that mask is a terrified child who learned very early that their authentic self wasn't acceptable, that vulnerability meant danger, that imperfection meant abandonment. So they created a false self, a persona that could never be hurt because it could never be real. A character so convincing that even they started to believe in it. They became the hero of their own fabricated story, where they're always right, always admired, always in control. The mask protects them from the unbearable reality of their own insecurities, from the shame they can't face, from the worthlessness they feel at their core but can never, ever admit even to themselves. Jung called this the inflation of the ego, when someone identifies completely with their persona and loses touch with their authentic self entirely. The narcissist doesn't just wear a mask, they become the mask. And they'll do anything: manipulate, gaslight, lie, charm, rage to keep that mask intact. Because if the mask falls, they don't just face criticism or rejection. They face annihilation. They face the void of their own unlived life. They face every wound they've spent decades running from. So the question isn't why do they wear a mask? The question is, how could they possibly survive without one? The breaking point. But here's what the narcissist doesn't understand. Masks don't last forever. Eventually, reality intrudes. Eventually, life demands authenticity. Eventually, the illusion becomes unsustainable. So what makes the mask fall? 3 things. And empaths embody all of them. First, reality. Reality is the narcissist's enemy, because reality doesn't care about their narrative. Reality includes consequences. It includes aging, failure, loss, and the limits of control. And no matter how good the performance, reality always finds the cracks. A narcissist can charm their way through a first impression, a first date, even a first year. But life is long. Patterns emerge. Inconsistencies accumulate. The person who claimed to be selfless is suddenly always the victim. The partner who seemed so confident suddenly rages when questioned. The image doesn't match the evidence. Reality is patient. And empaths, whether they realize it or not, are aligned with reality. They feel the truth. They sense incongruence. They notice what doesn't add up, even when they can't articulate it yet. Second, honesty. Empaths crave authenticity. They value emotional truth above social performance, and that's kryptonite to a narcissist, because the narcissist's entire world is built on impression management, on controlling narratives, on making sure everyone sees the version of them they want to project. But empaths don't want the performance. They want the person. When an empath asks, "How are you really feeling?" or "Can we talk about what happened?" that's not just a question. That's an invitation to drop the mask. It's an offer of acceptance for whoever is underneath. And for the narcissist, that's terrifying. So they deflect, they charm, they change the subject, they turn it back on you. Because honesty threatens the entire structure. One honest moment of vulnerability could bring the whole facade crashing down. Third, boundaries. This is the big one. This is what ultimately makes the mask shatter. A narcissist's mask only works when others participate in the illusion. When people agree to play their assigned roles. When empaths absorb the blame, accept the gaslighting, and stay small so the narcissist can stay inflated. But when an empath finally sets a boundary, when they say no, when they stop over-functioning, when they refuse to carry the shame anymore, the narcissist's control breaks. And without control, the mask can't hold. Because the mask needs your compliance. It needs your silence. It needs your willingness to doubt yourself instead of them. The moment you stop tolerating the illusion collapses. And that's when you see it. That's when the mask falls. That's when the rage comes. The projection, the desperate scrambling, because you've just threatened their entire psychological survival system. Empaths don't tolerate illusions forever. Eventually, the truth breaks through. And that truth is unbearable for the narcissist, but liberating for you. What the empath sees. So let's talk about what you actually see when the mask finally falls. Because here's where the cultural narrative gets it wrong. Here's where the internet oversimplifies. Here's where people expect you to see a villain, a demon, a monster. But that's not what's there. When the mask falls, what the empath sees is not evil. It's not some dark, mysterious force. It's not even particularly impressive. What you see is emotional immaturity and deep insecurity. You see a grown adult who never learned to regulate their emotions, who throws tantrums like a toddler when they don't get their way, who blames everyone else because they never developed the capacity for self-reflection. You see someone terrified of being ordinary, terrified of being seen as flawed, terrified that if people knew the real them, they'd be abandoned. You see someone whose inner world is so fragile that the slightest criticism feels like a mortal wound. Someone who genuinely can't distinguish between "you hurt me" and "you're attacking my existence." And here's the strangest part. You might even feel compassion. Because once you see the wound, once you understand the terror, once you recognize the child who never felt safe enough to grow up, it's hard to keep seeing them as powerful. They're not powerful. They're frozen, stuck in a developmental stage they never moved past, defending themselves against threats that are decades old, fighting battles that exist only in their own minds. Jung would say they're possessed by their shadow, that the parts of themselves they rejected have taken over from the unconscious, that they've become a puppet of their own unintegrated trauma. But the empath sees something simpler. They see someone who is deeply, profoundly stuck, and who will likely stay stuck because the tools required to heal vulnerability, honesty, accountability are the very things the narcissist system is designed to avoid. This is the tragedy. Not that they're evil, but that they're trapped in a prison of their own making and they've thrown away the key. So if you're an empath who's been through this, if you've seen the mask fall and you're trying to make sense of what you witnessed, here's what I want you to know. You didn't fail, you didn't cause it, and you can't fix it. What you saw was real. The illusion was never your responsibility to maintain, and the truth you uncovered, no matter how painful, is what will set you free. Because once you see behind the mask, you can't unseen it. You can't go back to believing the performance. You can't unknow what you now know. And that's not a curse. That's a gift. That's clarity. That's the beginning of your own healing. Shadow work isn't just for the narcissist who refuses to do it. It's for you, too. It's for the empath who absorbed their projections, who doubted their own reality, who dimmed their light to make someone else feel less threatened. Your shadow work is reclaiming your truth and setting boundaries without guilt, trusting yourself again, integrating the parts of you that got fragmented in that relationship. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to continue this journey of understanding narcissistic dynamics through depth psychology, then subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell because we're just getting started. There's more to unpack, more patterns to decode, more healing to claim. The mask has fallen. Now it's time to step into your truth. Welcome to 2026. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.